What is the reason of my birth? Reason of my life? This is the question of man. What is he? Of course, it's our boy, Astro Boy. In this new version of the classic show, our little robot hero Astro finds himself in the futuristic city of Metro City, where robots and humans live together in a beautifully messy way. And you can rest assured that when a villain is on the streets, Astro's gonna do whatever he can to bring him to justice. So sit down and strap in. We're taking you on a rocket-boosted trip down memory lane as we recap the entirety of Astro Boy. But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's talk about some of the main characters of the series, starting with our protagonist and the star himself, Astro. He's this little robot boy built by the impressive father, Dr. Tenma. With his rocket feet, arm cannons, and big heart, Astro is always ready to fight bad guys and help people. Oh, and this little dude just has a lot, and I mean a lot, of energy. And then there's Dr. Tenma himself, Astro's creator and the main antagonist of the show. Yeah, you heard that right. He made Astro after his son, Tobio, passed away during an accident. Tenma is a pretty evil guy who above all else wants his son to be the king of all robots, which his son hates the idea of. To sum it up, it's a very complicated father-son relationship. And next comes Professor O'Shea, Tenma's friend who became Astro's mentor and caretaker. This funny robo-scientist took Astro under his care and helps the little guy to use his powers for good and to just be a kid. O'Shea is like the caring robo-dad Astro needs. There's one other major character in the story, but we'll get to them later. For now, let's get started with episode 1 of Astro Boy, Power Up. Our series starts with a bunch of scientists, led by our head scientist, Professor O'Shea, calling out the birth of the ultimate robot. Just then, they run out of power, so they have to contact the energy plant to suck up all the energy from Metro City. Or maybe they just forgot to pay the electricity bill. Jokes aside, the whole city goes dark, except for the lab, as we see a murky man saying memories are bitter. We'll learn a lot, and I mean a lot, about this guy later in the series. However, back in the lab, one of the pipes breaks free, so O'Shea rushes to connect it, which blasts him off. But hey, at least the robot's reborn, and with that, the ultimate robot is finally back, and O'Shea names the robot Astro. The scene shifts back to the energy plant, where something is going wrong due to the sudden power surge. On the other side, O'Shea is attached to Astro and even refuses to go to work. However, his assistant has to drag him to work as he's needed there. As soon as O'Shea leaves, Astro escapes to explore the outside world. Meanwhile, due to the sudden power surge, the core of the energy plant goes rogue and starts attacking everything in its path. Just as the core is about to attack O'Shea, Astro comes to the rescue and rushes to stop the rampaging robot. He figures that the robot is in pain due to excess energy.
Are you hurt?
So he asks it to send the excess energy out, and Astro absorbs all of it. With that, the core returns to normal and goes back to the energy plant. Due to the excess energy in Astro's body, the energy turns into light as he flies in the air like a star.
It's beautiful, like a shooting star.
The episode ends with O'Shea believing that Astro will be the bridge between humans and robots. Will he succeed in proving O'Shea's dreams? Stay tuned to find out. We start the next episode with the opening game of the Robot Ball World Series. Now we're introduced to the star player of the Omega Knights, Harley. While Harley is shooting like a rock star, our professor teaches Astro about rules and how humans and robots are meant to live peacefully. But our little boy can't resist, and as soon as he sees the ball, he jumps from the futuristic car and lands in the middle of the sporting arena. Over there, he's confronted by Harley, followed by our professor organizing a press meet to explain about Astro and his behavior. But then the media vultures start bombarding the little robot with a ton of questions, confusing him to no end. So the professor sends him off, and as he exits from the media hall, he is confronted by the police officer who reveals the juicy secret that Astro, aka Tobio, was actually created by Professor Tenma. Yeah, you guessed it right. Remember the guy from the first episode telling memories are bitter? That same guy. Unlike our professor, Tenma created the robot based on his deceased son with the goal of creating a world ruled by robots. The officer warns the professor about the danger, but this only ends in a stalemate as both argue based on their own morality. As the second part of the Robot Ball World Series is about to start, a robo-dog enters the chamber of the robots and infects them with a type of virus, and the man behind this is none other than Professor Tenma. On the other side of town, Astro and his robot guardian are just trying to chill at the park when the little guy meets and befriends a group of human boys. Our hero is having a total blast playing with his new buddies until the robo-dog shows up, snatches their ball, and takes off with it. The robo-dog lures Astro and one of the boys to the Rocket Ball Stadium, where Harley challenges the little robot to a high-stakes match. If Astro refuses to play, the robots threaten to turn the humans into actual fried chicken within just 2 minutes.
Do it, Tobio, or I'll make all these humans very, very unhappy.
I won't question it, and you shouldn't either. So with no other option, Astro agrees for the match. At first, Astro gets knocked out a couple of times, but our hero doesn't give up that easy. He plans out a strategy to target Harley, and after a daring kick, Astro shoots it for a goal. Bullseye! But the robots won't go down without a fight. They combine together to form a gigantic mega robot and start indiscriminately attacking our poor boy. Just when everything seems over for Astro, he overpowers the robot and gets backup from the professor, who tells him to remove his sunglasses. And just like that, the mega robot crumbles into pieces as the crowd cheers on our little boy riding high on Harley's shoulders, while the professor realizes Tenma was behind this whole crazy show.
Tenma's work.
This next episode kicks off by introducing us to the tiny planet Damos, which is taken care of by this guy who's about to send a video message to his daughter talking about how great robots are for mankind. But then, out of nowhere, the robots start acting against his orders. With no other option, the foreman quickly sends an SOS back to Earth.
I can't stop them. The robots are taking over!
Surprising Professor O'Shea, who can't believe that the robots have suddenly started to act on their own. So the professor bids adieu to little Astro and heads off to Damos in a spacecraft. But little did he know, our hero had snuck aboard as well, determined to experience the wonders of space for the first time. However, Astro's secret plan doesn't stay secret for long, as the professor soon catches him red-handed. After a brief lecture, the professor caves and lets our hero tag along on their journey. As their ship approaches the planet, the group hears the foreman's voice crying for help.
Help me! Hurry! Someone's trapped inside!
And so, in swoops Astro to rescue the poor guy. At first, he has a bit of a clumsy time controlling the rocket shoes, since Earth is not equal to space. However, he soon gets hold of it and saves the foreman's life. But plot twist, wasn't just our hero who did all the saving. The robots also pitched in to rescue, which he later informs the professor of. Just when the situation got under control, a tall, muscular dude shows up, ranting about making the robots behave properly. And what's his solution? It's simple. Utter destruction, of course. He demands total control of the place to start destroying all the rogue robots.
Here in space, when robots stop doing what they're told, there's only one possible course of action. Destroy any robot that defies order.
But the professor and our hero steps in, buying themselves an hour to prove the robots are actually good guys. The group heads down a mysterious hole, but the robot killer's own robot suddenly turns rogue and starts disobeying orders. With no other choice, he takes his flying machine and follows them down the hole, with the goal of destroying whatever's manipulating the robot.
Robots have gone mad! I will destroy everyone!
When Astro tries to stop him, he gets blasted by a laser, crashing to the ground. Down below, we see the robots having a campfire party and staring at a pink crystal surface. Astro tells the crew that the robots are actually asking him to save someone trapped inside the crystal.
The robots are saying that someone is trapped down here. They want to save him, but their drills are broken and can't dig any further.
But nobody believes him, until suddenly, Astro hears the same call coming from within the crystal. So using his power, he breaks through to the other side and comes face to face with an alien princess. She grabs Astro's hands and asks him to fly away with her. But our hero isn't having any of that fairy tale romance, as he's got a mission to focus on. So he politely declines the princess's advances and goes back to the professor. As the princess departs, she leaves behind a strange symbol like a message on the ground, which definitely looks like a message from your ex. What could this strange alien message mean? The fourth episode starts with an eerie laugh that makes the poor security guard pee his pants. Turns out the creepy cackle belongs to an invisible robot, Denko. Back in Professor's home, the officer informs about last night's heist to the professor, and he's quick to find out that it's Denko. About 6 months before, Denko was kidnapped from a Swiss lab by Skunk Kusai, who is an international criminal. Ever since the kidnapping, Denko has been using its invisibility trick to help Skunk's gang in pulling off a heist. So the authorities have had enough, and the officer requests Astro's help to hunt down the robot. But Professor O'Shea shuts him down, saying it's a very important day for our hero Astro, since it's his very first time attending a school. On his first day at the academy, our little hero befriends 3 students, Kennedy, Alejo, and Abercrombie. At first, Abercrombie refuses to be friends with a robot.
Leave it to Geek Boy to make friends with a robot.
However, that was until Astro saved him from what he believed to be a ghost sneaking up behind him. After that spooky incident, the boys more than happy to join Astro's crew. After their classes, the newly formed squad have a bizarre run-in with a Denko. The mischievous robot reveals it accidentally tore Abercrombie's clothes earlier and was worried, which made Abercrombie sigh in relief.
When the ship moved, I started to fall, so I grabbed his arm.
Speaking of ships, Alejo shows off his prized creation, a self-made flying vessel which excites Denko and the rest of the kids. With all their strength, they power up the flying vessel, sending it soaring through the air like a real ship. After having fun with the boys, Denko reveals to Astro that it's actually working under Skunk.
Why so mysterious?
I can't tell you or Mr. Skunk will get mad. Bye!
But Astro's puzzled, so he heads to his house and asks the guardian robot, who reveals that Skunk is an international criminal. Later that night, Denko visits Astro. So without wasting any time, Astro reveals that Skunk is a criminal, but the stubborn robot refuses to believe its boss is evil and storms off, unaware that the officer was spying from the sky. Meanwhile, at Skunk's lair, we learn his next nefarious plan is to steal Solomon's jewels and then discard Denko forever.
Once I get that crown, bada bing. Lights out for little Denku.
In order to stop Denko from stealing the jewels, the crew decide to search for Denko, but the police catch wind of Denko's next heist and race to capture it, dead or alive. In the chaos, Denko makes a desperate escape, only to get betrayed by Skunk, who turns on the bot. He heads out, saying that it only has 15 minutes left before it gets blasted out into oblivion.
See if your friends can save you now. Adios, Denku.
Just when everything seems hopeless, Astro pulls off a heroic rescue and saves Denko from the deadly blast. Professor O'Shea hands over the robot to Professor Emil, and as the group says their goodbyes, they give Denko a flag from Alejo's flying ship as a promise to sail towards a fresh start. With that heartfelt farewell, Denko flies off into the horizon, while our hero is ready for the next adventure. Episode 6 opens up with a bunch of grunts knocking on Professor Tenma's lab door, like they're trying to collect your debt money or something. As Tenma observes from the inside, we're now introduced to a new character, Takugawa, the head of the Takugawa group. He pleads with Tenma to create a robot replica of his deceased son, Daichi, who sadly didn't make it back after his shuttle crashed. A lot of dead sons in this show, huh? Luckily, Takugawa still has his son's memory, so Tenma agrees to bring back Daichi. Meanwhile, Astro is hit with a flashback to his days as a regular human boy, Tobio, which leaves Professor O'Shea in shock. While the poor professor is still reeling from Astro's shocking memories, Tenma gets busy building a robot as powerful as our robot boy, Astro. After burning the midnight oil, Daichi is finally reborn. But plot twist, Daichi has been holding a grudge against his father for mistreating him ever since he was just a little boy. Now that he's an invincible robot, he plans on finally sticking it to dear old dad and the rest of humanity to get his ultimate revenge. When Daichi seeks out his former human friends, those jerks mock him as being nothing more than daddy's little pet project. And little did they know that their butts would be whipped. Calling himself Atlas, he goes full on beast mode, declaring himself the strongest robot on the entire planet.
I am the strongest robot in the world. I am Atlas!
It doesn't take long for news of Atlas's rampage to reach Professor O'Shea. As the professor investigates the chaos, Daichi is living out his anger issues by demolishing factory after factory owned by his beloved father. Or, well, maybe not so beloved father. During one of these rampages, Atlas comes face to face with Astro, and the two instantly start fighting each other. Astro fights with all of his power, but Atlas soon overwhelms him, though he does spare our hero's life, cryptically telling Astro he'll soon realize just how terrible humans really are.
Humans are the enemy.
They are not! They created us!
And I'm gonna make them wish they hadn't.
As these robot attacks become increasingly common, the humans are panicking that their number might be the next. They start frantically calling for an outright ban on all robots, which absolutely shatters the hearts of the professor and Astro. The tension reaches a boiling point during a meeting at Tokugawa's headquarters, where Daichi reveals that he's Atlas and starts wrecking the entire building. Astro confronts him once again, but Atlas hits him with the mother of all identity crises by questioning who actually created Astro in the first place. Just when it's looking bad for Astro, he catches a glimpse of Professor Tenma watching from the rooftop.
Atlas, Huh?
Tobio.
This somehow reawakens Astro's hidden Tobio memories and unlocks his super strength. And with this insane power surge, Astro blasts Atlas as the episode ends on a cliffhanger. And we're back. After his encounter with Atlas, Astro starts seriously questioning his entire existence, puzzled over whether he was actually created by someone else this whole time. Meanwhile, Atlas is still alive and kicking despite Astro's blast, and heads straight back to Professor Tenma's lab, smashing through the front door. But Professor Tenma's like, knock when you open the door, boy. Our professor's got no chill. Atlas requests Tenma to repair him, since he's got some serious unfinished business to attend to. In the wake of the chaos caused by Atlas, the humans are so terrified they're too afraid to even send their kids to school, which upsets Astro when he finds his classroom completely deserted. As he mopes outside in the rain, Astro meets Tobio? Well, not the real Tobio, but his memory as Tobio that's in his robo brain. This vision leads Astro to an old house, where he discovers a photo of Tobio alongside Professor Tenma. Just then, Professor O'Shea shows up and finally reveals the mind-blowing truth that Astro's actually the robot version of Tobio, created by Tenma after his own son son tragically died. Yeah, I may have spoiled that bit in the intro, but we're only a few episodes in, so not too big of a deal. We then get a brief flashback about the events which led to Astro's creation and his eventual abandonment by Tenma. Hearing that, Astro confronts the professor about why Tenma left him, but the poor guy has no answers. Their heart-to-heart conversation is interrupted by Atlas, who's back in action, but this time, it's not on Earth, rather in a research facility on the freaking moon. Because why stop at just causing havoc on Earth? So the professor and Astro rocket off to the moon to confront the rampaging robot. When Atlas and Astro meet again for the third time, he's about to blow Astro off using his new power, but his father Tokugawa intervenes and starts opening fire on his deranged robo-son. However, due to Astro's distraction, Atlas gains the upper hand, and he was mere moments away from straight up liquidating his own father. But at the last second, Astro pulls off a selfless save, saving Tokugawa away from Atlas's clutches, but accidentally making a huge hole in the facility that was about to suck Tokugawa into outer space. Seeing this, Atlas gets flashbacks during his days as a little boy, and he decides to sacrifice himself to save his father. As Atlas is gone, the episode ends with Professor Tenma declaring that Astro has the potential to be the true king of all robots, as he flies off in a robo-dog spacesuit.
I will see you soon, Astro.
Episode 10 begins with some good old-fashioned fishermen doing what else but fishing in the deep oceans with the robots. Okay, maybe that's not so old-fashioned. As they're getting ready for their catch, they unexpectedly find a strange robot, which activates and starts asking about its captain.
Captain, are you my captain?
But the metallic bot quickly goes into hibernation mode, leaving the confused fishermen scratching their heads. So they bring their strange catch to Professor O'Shea, who briefs them on the robot's history. Turns out it's called Venus Robot. It was created to cool down the scorching planet Venus so humans could colonize it one day. But they were never used, and instead dumped these robots into the deep blue sea. It's not a very happy ending, is it? Right then, our boy Astro hears the Venus robot's cries for its long-lost master. So Astro rushes out to the ocean and finds an entire robot colony populated by these Venus robots. Over there, one of the robots gives a city tour about how great and wonderful its master is, and how they're all waiting for his glorious return. But little do they know, Professor Tenma is already there, no doubt cooking up his next nefarious plan. After Astro heads out to explain this whole underwater situation to the professor, Tenma seizes the opportunity to trick the robots into believing that he is their long-lost master. He orders them to freeze the entire metro city, and the easily fooled robots soon start swarming the city, so Astro heads in to stop them with all his power. But the Venus bots are so loyal to their master that they refuse to believe Astro's words. Guess you could say their wires are crossed.
Out of our way, Astro. We know our mission. We will obey the captain's orders.
Just when the robots are about to cover the entire city in ice and freeze all the citizens, Astro jumps into action and saves the people from becoming popsicles. But the robots are like, we'll never give up, as they start marching forward again. This time, our Professor O'Shea jumps in to save the day by showing the footage of the real long-lost Venus master. Tenma tries to brainwash the robots one last time, but they're having none of the nonsense.
Don't listen to them. I am your captain.
No, our captain would not ask us to harm humans.
Ooh, finally, their circuits are rebooted. After a brief scene of Astro along with the Venus bots saving the professor, they bid adieu to our boy as the Venus bots depart back to their metropolis. And with that, the episode ends with a statue of Astro and the robots celebrating their newfound friendship.
Astro, our friend.
Episode 13, titled Birth of Zoran, starts with our Professor O'Shea telling how robots with hearts are good for society. Later, his assistant reveals to Astro that he's soon going to be a big brother. When he goes to meet his new sister Zoran for the first time, he finds the mischievous little girl playfully pulling on the professor's nose. Astro quickly steps in to introduce himself as her new big brother, but our naughty girl doesn't care. She's already chasing after the poor ostrich robot, creating total chaos in the lab and the city. Finally, after a long day of robo-chaos, Zoran ends up at the park where she finds a little bird and decides to save it,
I think I bumped into the other birds and fell.
calling her new feathered friend Pecola. Later that night, Pecola wakes Zoran up, alarming about a huge giant robot flying over the city. She informs Astro, but her brother jokes that her sister must be having dreams.
A big, humongous, gigantic robot bird! Did I mention it was big, huh?
See, Zoran? That's what's called a dream.
Professor O'Shea calls Astro and confirms Zoran's sighting and explains that she has the special ability to feel and understand animal emotions. At the same time, Pecola guides Zoran to a shady laboratory. She manages to sneak inside without tripping any alarms until the bird makes her push a big red button, alerting all the security. Not exactly a smooth move, so the guards start searching for the intruder and find her forcing Zoran to make a break for it. But in her escape, she comes face to face with the sleeping dragon robot. Just as the guards are about to nab our girl, an old man, Professor Popator, saves her and explains explains that Katari has trapped him, aiming to use the dragon to destroy the city and ruin Robot's reputation as being bad for society. Later, when the professor tries to help Zoran escape, he gets captured by Katari and his henchmen, and Katari pushes the old guy off a cliff while taking Zoran hostage. But the resilient geezer manages to survive the fall and spots his creation flying towards the city. That's one tough Drago bot. Professor O'Shea soon gets wind of the situation and alerts the citizens to evacuate, while Astro springs into action trying to hold back the rampaging dragon robot. The professor tells Astro to scan it, and he finds his beloved little sister trapped inside. With the help from Professor Popator, Astro manages to not only save Zoran, but destroy the dragon too. The episode ends with our big brother giving Zoran his brotherly advice, insisting she behave properly like a good little girl robot. But Zoran, being Zoran, runs away, forcing Astro to start chasing the little bot again. The next episode starts with a murky man analyzing the power of our hero Astro, scheming to find a way to steal it for himself. Right then, the scene shifts to Astro and his little sister Zoran, quarreling like only siblings can. But our impatient robo-sister has had enough of her brother and storms off home in a huff. Once there, Zoran decides to take a cake for Professor O'Shea as a sweet gesture. But in typical Zoran fashion, she ends up creating a foam tsunami in the kitchen, obviously frustrating our Astro. I mean, look at the mess. Sick of her brother's nagging, the little robot goes for a walk around the city. On her excursion, she crosses paths with a very sketchy man who smoothly tricks the naive girl.
And I bet you have superpowers of your own that are even more impressive than Astro.
Sending a tiny robot right into her ears, making her unconscious. You've heard this a million times, but it's time to hear it again. Don't talk to strangers. The scene shifts back to that murky villain from the start, but he's clearly frustrated that Zoran doesn't possess the same abilities as her super strong brother, so he decides to execute his backup plan instead. Meanwhile, Professor O'Shea discovers the micro-robot inside Zoran's body is slowly absorbing her energy. With no idea how to save his robot daughter, the professor calls an emergency meeting with all the top scientists. Their genius solution? Just rip the bot apart and voila, Zoran will be fine. Yeah, let's see how that works. Just then, the murky man barges in, introducing himself as Mini-Mini. He talks about his incredible new technology that could potentially help the professor. But here's the catch. Only a robot with all 5 senses can operate it, and the one and only bot fitting that description is Astro. With no other options, our hero accepts Mini-Mini's offer. Using the crazy technology, Astro shrinks down to micro size and enters inside Zoran's body to hunt down the energy-draining robot. They immediately break into an epic micro battle, but the mini-robot has the advantage since it already absorbed so much of Zoran's power. Astro then enters the inner memory chamber of Zoran's mind, horrified to see her precious memories being slowly erased by the robot. But the cunning mini-bot quickly overwhelms Astro, trashing and bashing him while our hero struggles to gain the upper hand.
If we don't stop it, Astro's brain will suffer the same fate and be paralyzed too!
Right then, Mini-Mini reveals himself as the mastermind beyond this whole chaos. He escapes from the lab, taking Astro's physical robot body as his hostage. As the professor frantically calls for Astro to wake up, our hero has a dream, reminding him that he needs to protect his one and only sister at all costs. With the newfound motivation, Astro quickly destroys the draining robot from the inside out. He then returns to his original body and helps the police catch Mini-Mini. The episode ends with a heartfelt hug between the two robot siblings. What a lovely ending. Episode 17, titled World's Strongest Robot, starts with Professor Tenma cooking up his next diabolical plan to make Astro even stronger, proclaiming that it'll be the last true test of Astro's power. The scene then shifts to Professor O'Shea, Astro, and Zoran excitingly cheering on Harley. But right as Harley is about to take a shot, a mysterious hand emerges from nowhere, and the robot introduces himself as Pluto. This new challenger boldly claims that he can stop every single one of Harley's shots, and rightly so. The robot makes good on his boast as he stops his shots and finally throws Harley into the basket. That's when Professor Tenma reveals himself as the one who created Pluto.
I've never seen anything like this before!
So much for Harley. Pluto showed him who's boss, didn't he?
And guess what? Pluto's next targets are some of the top robots of the world. Delta, the squad chief, Hercules, the world champion, Epsilon, the environmental observer, and finally, our beloved Astro himself. After the chaos, Pluto and the squad chief Delta meet face to face during a combat training program, who tries to defeat the rogue robot. But instead, our metallic chief gets absolutely tossed aside like a piece of tinfoil. And with that, it's 2 for 2 for Pluto. A little later, Tenma confronts Professor O'Shea, revealing his evil plan to evolve Astro beyond all human expectation, leaving the poor professor scratching his head in confusion. The next day, Pluto challenges the robot world champion Hercules to an epic duel. Astro gets wind of the fight and rushes to the stadium, only to arrive just as the dust is settling, with Pluto emerging victorious yet again. That's an astronomical 3 wins in a row for him. Alright, sorry for the pun, I'll just see myself out. After seeing Astro, Pluto starts shooting a bunch of rockets towards him. However, Astro dodges all the shots with ease, surprising Pluto. But just as our hero is about to counterattack, Pluto goes crashing into the ocean due to a malfunction. Astro rescues the robot and brings Pluto ashore to treat his injuries. He tries reasoning with Pluto, saying robots are meant to help humans, not fight them.
Why are you helping me? I just tried to squash you.
You definitely did. But you see, Pluto,
You and I are both robots.
Just as Pluto is about to open up, the police arrive, forcing him to flee from the spot. While the professor is briefing Astro on all the Pluto-related chaos, little Zoran decides to sneak away after their home gets swarmed by paparazzi, ever since Pluto issued his challenge against his brother. At the park, Zoran runs into Pluto himself, who treats her well. However, their moment is interrupted when some joker brings in a bunch of robots to fight, but Pluto easily overpowers and dismantles them all, reducing them to a pile of scraps. Just then, Astro arrives, thinking Pluto is attacking his sister. As Zoran tries explaining to her brother, the episode ends with a cliffhanger, with Astro and Pluto squaring off, ready for their final epic battle. Or is it? We pick up right where we left off, with Astro and Pluto squaring off, ready for an epic robo-rumble. Just then, Zoran tries to stop, but gets caught in the crossfire, and is blasted away. And with that, Pluto has a clear shot to blast Astro all the way to space. But in a surprise move, he refuses to take it, declaring that they're even now, since Astro previously saved his life. Our hero then rushes Zoran back to the lab, where she eventually awakens, telling Pluto isn't actually a bad guy after all. Right then, Epsilon along with the cops finally track down Tenma's secret hideout and bust in. But right then comes Shadow, who declares the fight won't be over until Pluto proves himself as the strongest robot. Suddenly, a gigantic robot arm comes from the ground, snatching up Professor O'Shea as a hostage. With the professor's life on the line, both Astro and Epsilon take off to find him. However, Epsilon gets confronted by Pluto, who challenges her to a fight. Using her natural element, she leaps into a body of water, initially overpowering Pluto. But he regains the upper hand after realizing her biggest weakness is that she cares too much about aquatic life to truly fight back. Meanwhile, Shadow reveals his true identity to Professor O'Shea as a robot scientist created by Tenma. Both Tenma and Shadow reveal their ultimate plan of evolving Astro beyond his capabilities, whether he likes it or not. Later that night, Zoran is out stargazing when something suddenly lands in the park nearby. Could it be a meteor? Nah, it's just our boy Pluto having a robo bath under the moonlight. Just kidding. Right then, Zoran appears and is overjoyed to see him, asking the towering robot to be her friend. But he denies her request, stating he'll soon have to fight her big bro Astro.
Astro, this time I'll demolish you!
The next morning, Shadow announces that Pluto is waiting at Volcano Brocken for a final showdown with Astro, using the captive professor as a hostage bargaining chip. But the exchange is a total setup, as soon as Tenma gets O'Shea and changes the deal, saying he'll free the professor only when Astro completely demolishes Pluto. The two robots begin trading blows, but Pluto's sheer power advantage allows him to swiftly knock Astro down. Just when it looks like it's all over for our hero, he hears the cheers of his friends, and humans from Metro City giving him the motivation to keep fighting. Just then, little Zoran arrives, begging the robots to stop their fight, which causes Pluto's systems to glitch, experiencing emotions as Pluto refuses to fight with Astro. Shadow whips out his trump card, Acheron, which is just Pluto minus emotions. He emerges from the ground and immediately blasts Pluto down into the volcano pit. This new Pluto packs even more power than before, smashing Astro down into the dirt. However, Pluto reemerges from the pit, grabbing Acheron and taking them both back down into the fiery volcano, ending the clash once and for all.
I finally found something I want to protect.
As the smoke clears, Shadow makes his exit, declaring that for robots to truly evolve, it needs to have heart. He plans to test the extent of Astro's power again soon enough. Right then, the next episode kicks off with our robo-scientist Shadow on the moon, trying to figure out what makes Astro the strongest robot. He deduces that our hero's heart is the key to his power, but he just can't understand the concept of a heart. Probably needs to install some new hard drives. Searching through his memory banks, which are actually that of Professor Tenma, Shadow discovers a little teddy bear that Tenma once created and considered a friend. Speaking of friends, we cut to Astro's buddy Kennedy, scoring an amazing goal. But our protagonist isn't really excited and quickly points out that Kennedy used his hand, making it a handball. Kennedy is understandably irritated and storms off while muttering that Astro's just a robot. Yeesh, definitely hurt our boy Astro a lot. Meanwhile, Professor O'Shea notices a huge drop in productivity around his lab. When his assistant steps out, she's startled by a little teddy bear, which asks her to be his friend. Astro also runs in with the bear, but it rejects his friendship, saying it only befriends humans, not robots. The next day at school, Kennedy is absent, so Astro heads to his friend's house to apologize, but he refuses to see him. Even though Kennedy thinks of speaking to Astro, the teddy stops him, telling that Astro isn't his real friend. Back in the lab, Professor O'Shea discovers the absentee Spike isn't just isolated to his department, as he spots his own assistant talking with the suspicious-looking teddy. That night, Professor Tenma confronts Shadow, demanding to know why he's releasing these little bears into the city. Cool as a cucumber, Shadow responds that he's investigating how the human heart works. Meanwhile, the sneaky bear puts Professor O'Shea under its hypnotic spell, until Astro and Zoran arrive just in time to free him. Remembering he saw the same bear at Kennedy's place, Astro races over to his friend's house. When Astro calls out to Kennedy, the boy refuses to come out, telling our hero to just go home. That's when a gigantic teddy bear emerges, asking Astro to be its friend. Astro declines the offer, so the Robo-Bear releases a wave of smaller teddies with brain-scrambling sound waves to weaken him. Just as Kennedy is about to help his friend, the bear orders him to ignore Astro since it's his true friend. In a last-ditch effort, Astro reminds Kennedy of how even when they played soccer together, and reveals that the boy never felt genuinely happy inside after scoring that goal. Struck by the truth bomb, Kennedy shakes off the bear's control and rushes to Astro's help. With Kennedy's help, Astro blasts free from the teddy pool and confronts the Robo-Bear. But rather than fighting, the Robo-Bear simply says, "Sayonara," before leaving behind its teddy bear army. The episode ends with Shadow finally understanding the meaning of heart, declaring he will create a robot that will change both the future of humans and robots. The next episode starts with a flamboyant robot riding his horse like a cowboy, chasing down what looks like a robot woman. He's introduced as Blue Knight, the savior of robots who rescues innocent robots from human bullies. As the woman runs for her life, she finds Astro and pleads for help, claiming a strange robot is harassing her. Seeing Astro, Blue Knight promptly leaves the scene. The robot woman then reveals she's a huge fan of Astro and asks for a handshake, which is suspiciously captured by a tiny flybot. Something fishy's going on here, isn't it? Right then, we cut to Katari and his gang plotting the MyNib plan to retake the world without any AI robots.
Because there won't be any more of those obnoxious robots around to question us.
This MyNib is actually a flying airship where even Professor O'Shea has boarded for a meeting too. Suddenly, a mysterious woman appears on the screen saying that she is from the Free Robot Army, claiming that even Astro is a part of it. So, since precaution is always better than cure, the police drain Astro's power so that he doesn't go rogue later. But fear not, the Blue Knight is here. He quickly rescues Astro so they can save the people aboard the airship. Over there, they find out that Katari and his gang have planted a wormhole-sucking machine, and so Astro heads off and searches for it. However, those evil jerks activate it, attempting to suck the ship into the wormhole, but thankfully they're successful in stopping the portal, causing any more damage. Though Astro and Blue Knight save the airship, the engine is severely damaged, meaning they have no choice but to make an emergency landing. While trying to crash land, Astro loses all of his power, and to make matters worse, he gets electrocuted by a bunch of wires. This darkens the area, making it difficult for a captain to look for the runway. Right then, Blue Knight steps in and lightens up the area with his magnificent sword. The captain crash lands, and we get a brief Astro and Blue Knight moment. Blue Knight asks Astro if humans and robots can be friends, to which Astro replies, yes. However, Blue Knight soon leaves as the police arrive, making an end to their quick conversation. Get ready to know the secrets of the Blue Knight, as this episode is more or less about him and the story of who actually created this Robo Knight. The episode starts this time on Mars, as humans have successfully colonized and are doing some shady robot slave trade, so the police are waiting to catch the main culprit, Ham Egg, red-handed, who's behind all of this. However, just when the cops are about to nab him, Blue Knight comes charging to the scene and saves all the trapped robots. And just when he was about to attack Ham Egg, some old memories flash back. And using this distraction, Ham Egg makes his escape. Looks like even robots have PTSD. Later, Blue Knight heads back to his hideout, which looks awfully familiar. Yep, this base belongs to Shadow, and it's revealed that Blue Knight is also one of Shadow's creations. Over there, Blue Knight asks Shadow about the memory that resurfaced during the fight, and Shadow explains he removed all unwanted memories, except the anger towards humans. After knowing this, Blue Knight slowly regains his memories of when he was Blue Bond, just a regular robot mechanic working under the Ham Egg in the Robot Crush tournament. And let's not forget, Tenma is observing everything through his Robo Dog, which makes him believe Astro can evolve into something even greater with the help of Blue Knight. Right then, in an unexpected twist, Tenma helps Ham Egg's robot minions to fight against Astro and the Blue Knight. Soon, Astro confronts the Blue Knight, who explains his whole tragic backstory of how badly he and his robot buddies were treated by that jerk Ham Egg, fueling his hatred for humans.
But I did have emotions, and I was beginning to hate humans because of what they did to robots.
Suddenly, something comes flying, and when they go to check it, they find it empty. However, it turns out to be a decoy, as 3 of Ham Egg's robots emerge, attacking the duo. They put up a fierce fight, but one robot manages to blast Blue Knight into the ground. Seeing his face, the 3 robots recognize their old friend Blue Bond and stop attacking. Ham Egg forces the robots to keep fighting by inflicting horrible pain, so Astro blasts Ham Egg's control, freeing the robots from his control. Blue Knight reunites with his former robot buddies and asks if they'll join his fight against the humans. And without surprise, it's a yes from everybody, and they fly off into space together. Meanwhile, Tenma is proud as a robot papa that Shadow created Blue Knight who could help Astro evolve into the king of all robots someday. The next episode kicks off with a robot doing the rounds, making sure all is well at the museum. But then a snake shows up, and when the robot goes to investigate, the sneaky serpent shapeshifts into a wolf and steals a magical stone. Astro confronts the thief, but it transforms yet again, this time into a swan, and flies away. So our robot hero gives chase, but a suspicious looking man shoots him down. Turns out the swan is actually a human-esque alien girl who heals up Astro after seeing him injured. She introduces herself as Penelope before taking off with Mr. Suspicious.
I hope you didn't say anything to Astro. Doesn't matter.
Later at the lab, Professor O'Shea gives a brief history on the stolen stone, a magical moon rock called the Lunalite that he and Dr. Tsuruda found during a moon expedition. The next day, a shady dude named Rock hunts down Astro to let him know Penelope wants a meetup. Astro, being the good robot he is, agrees to go thank her for healing him. Such a little gentleman. But just as he's heading out with Rock, Zoran catches her brother leaving with a sketchy stranger. Meanwhile, a detective is briefing on what went down with Dr. Tsuruda after the moon mission. He says that Dr. Tsuruda is with a guy called Rock, who is a criminal with supernatural abilities. Right then, Zoran comes back after shopping and tells the detective that she just saw the shady guy along with his brother, Astro. On the other side, Astro learns Penelope was the one who stole the Lunalite. Dr. Tsuruda is stunned, but Penelope explains that Rock was the one who forced it to steal. That's when Rock barges in, saying he needs a robot with a heart to contact Moon Tower. But Dr. Tsuruda refuses, warning it could fry Astro's circuits. However, Rock doesn't care. He just wants the power to become king of the world. When Astro says, nah, I'm not gonna do that.
This time will be different, Astro.
You're crazy if you think I'm gonna help someone like you!
Rock threatens to hurt Penelope, left with no choice. Astro agrees to help, and Rock tracks down the Moon Tower location. Just then, Professor O'Shea and the detective show up, so Rock escapes while controlling Penelope with his crazy powers. He threatens to kill Dr. Tsuruda, unless Penelope points him toward the Moon Tower. Poor girl has no choice but to use the Lunalite to open a portal. In the chaos, Rock falls into the portal, dropping his locket on the ground. Sadly though, our extraterrestrial friend turns to stone while Rock is having a roller coaster ride inside of the portal. The next episode, Astro vs. Rock, is a continuation after Rock accidentally falls into the portal during the previous fight. Over there, he encounters the Firebird, who asks Rock to find the evolution door in order to become a Superman. Rock agrees, and is thrown into some ancient civilization structures. Looks like he's already ready with his next plan to try and win this time. On the other side, the detective tells Professor O'Shea that Rock has the power to control others using his eyes. By controlling the mind of Provocateur Lion, Rock tricks Astro and the Professor into visiting Phoenix Island, claiming it's a secret task. So Astro, the Professor, and a suspiciously acting Professor head to Phoenix Island. Rock has Astro enter the ruins alone, while tricking the team and trapping Professor O'Shea in an ancient prison cell. The shady Professor then reveals he was Rock all along. After learning this, Astro heads off to save the captive Professor. Rock threatens that if Astro doesn't comply, he'll harm the Professor. Left with no choice, our hero agrees, and Rock puts him into what looks like an ancient machine, which has the power to summon the Moon Tower. Soon, storm clouds gather as the mysterious Moon Tower lands on top of a structure. Astro quickly busts out of the machine, saving the Professor and the team, and goes to find Rock. But when Rock touches what looks like a biometric scanner, he gets a nasty shock, and the Moon Tower takes off again. Seeing this, Astro flies after Rock, and after a struggle, he frees him. But now Rock's in a frenzy, throwing Astro aside. That's when the Firebird explains the power interacts with the heart. Since Rock is evil, he's getting zapped. No wonder it didn't go well for him. At the same time, the portal opens again, sucking both Rock and Astro inside. Astro shows Rock his locket, triggering a flashback of Rock's childhood and helping him realize he wasn't actually forsaken. Suddenly, the portal stops pulling them in, and the Moon Tower explodes into pieces. From the rubble arises the Firebird Phoenix, saying when humans and robots trust each other, they can share its power. The episode ends with Rock getting arrested and reveals that he's already lost his powers, as Astro and the Professor watch the cops take him away. Episode 37 starts with the big shot of the Tokugawa group, Tokugawa, having a bad dream about his son Atlas, aka Daichi, sacrificing himself. As he remembers about his dead son, we see Atlas is actually still alive, but not kicking, as he managed to survive inside an asteroid. On the other side of town, Professor O'Shea, Astro, and Sister Zoran are out shopping at the biggest mall in Metro City. There, Zoran meets a shady magician who gives her a present for answering a question. But soon, Zoran turns rogue and starts demolishing everything around her. Just as she's about to throw a huge object at the Professor, Astro catches it just in time. Astro quickly realizes that something is going on with his sister and discovers the mischief is being caused by a strange top-knot thing. He quickly destroys it, and Zoran's back to normal. Turns out, the chaos was orchestrated by the former deputy director of the Ministry of Science, Dr. Pavlos, who hates both Tenma and O'Shea for promoting these AI robots.
I've never seen O'Shea look so scared, like he was going to turn tail and run.
While Astro's playing with his friends, he spots Atlas and goes to greet his old friend, but Atlas starts attacking him instead. Whoa, so much for a friendly reunion, am I right? Astro scans Atlas and discovers he's been implanted with an Omega chip, just like the one which was in his sister's top knot. As Astro tries to save his friends, he gets smashed by Atlas, who then takes him to Dr. Pavlos' lab. Professor O'Shea learns about this just as Dr. Pavlos pops up on the screen, venting his his frustration on him and Tenma for creating AI robots. Pavlos reveals his sinister plan to implant Astro with the Omega Chip 2 and control him. Right then, Tokugawa shows up, vowing to find Astro and his son Daichi. Just as Astro's about to get operated by Pavlos, he suddenly wakes up and flies away, only to run into Atlas again. They start battling, and just when Atlas is about to shred Astro into pieces, he stops. But why, you may ask? Well, it's none other than Professor Tenma, who used his own gadget to make the Omega Chip useless. He mocks Pavlos' Omega Chip, and to add insult to injury, he says that he doesn't even know who Pavlos is.
My work with Astro is far too important to let some amateur come in.
Setting the professor into a frenzy. That's how you roast a rogue roboticist, folks. Take note of it. In retaliation, Pavlos increases the Omega Chip's power, but Tenma activates his own gadget's waves, destroying Pavlos' lab and his robots, which then turn on their creator. Despite the chaos, Pavlos tries to flee, but his ship's engine is too damaged, so Astro and Atlas swoop in to the rescue. However, the engine keeps overheating, leaving Atlas no choice but to take the blast in outer space, while Astro saves Pavlos. The episode ends with Pavlos getting arrested, and Tokugawa remembering his beloved son once more. Well, buckle up, guys, because this episode starts off right in space. We see a bunch of slave robots to be taken to a recycling factory to work until they turn into scrap. Talk about a harsh robot retirement plan. But never fear, when our boy Blue Knight and his boys are here, they save the robot slaves from their grim fate, and the news of Knight's exploits start making rounds back on Earth. The scene shifts back to Blue Knight as his creator Shadow welcomes all the rescued robots to his newly created Steel Island, a safe haven just for robots. Finally, a place they can call home. On the other side of town, Mr. Lamp is fuming that Blue Knight has foiled his plans again. And right then, who should show up but Tenma himself, with that nefarious smile plastered on his face. Later, Tenma contacts Astro, telling him that Lamp and his goons are about to attack Steel Island.
Drake seeks revenge against the Blue Knight. He will hunt him down and destroy him once and for all.
Hearing this, Astro heads out, telling Sister Zoran he's going to fly to the island. But by the time he arrives, it's too late, as Lamp and his henchmen have already started their assault. Just as a robot is about to get smashed, Astro jumps in and saves it. However, as the fight rages on, Astro gets hit with a laser, and just as he's about to get blasted again, Blue Knight shows up to the rescue. Unfortunately, he gets captured during the brawl, and for the first time, he reveals his ultimate power by breaking free from the evil robot's grip. Just as Blue Knight is about to blast off the human attackers, Astro stops him, but Blue Knight is having none of it this time and shoots at Astro for blocking his path. However, Astro shoots right back, surprising and irritating Tenma simultaneously. Right then, Lamp's henchman blows up the island, making it sink into the ocean. However, Tenma sends him a live video of the robots boarding an invisible ship. This makes Lamp hopping mad, so one of his goons tries to bomb the ship, and he successfully plants the explosives. His henchman confirms it, and Lamp taunts Astro that with the push of a button, the invisible ship will become a robo-graveyard. Surprisingly, Astro gets a lot angrier this time, and is ready to blast Lamp into oblivion. But then Professor O'Shea's words about not harming humans reach him.
Astro, don't shoot! Huh? You cannot harm humans, Astro!
So instead, he shoots the antenna, making the detonator useless. Soon, Blue Knight and his crew start blasting the ship to shreds, as Mr. Lamp runs for his life. The episode ends with Professor O'Shea proud with Astro for not harming the human, while Tenma is angry his creation let him down again.
Astro, do not disappoint me again. The time has come for you to rise and prepare for the biggest battle of all.
This episode starts with a young girl, Hannah, running excitedly towards her favorite robot buddy, Jake, who's watering the plants. Just as Jake is showing Hannah a little bird's nest, her father, General Red, comes storming in, clearly not happy to see his daughter getting too close with a robot. The general orders Jake to pack his bags and leave tomorrow to work at the underground dump.
Tomorrow you will start your new job at the Waste Disposal Treatment Center. Pack up your belongings and leave this house tonight.
Understandably, this deeply saddens the poor robot. As he gets ready to go, he leaves a flower pot outside Hannah's room. But Hannah finds out Jake is leaving and goes to confront her father. However, she slips down the stairs, falling unconscious. Her father is furious and immediately blames Jake for the accident. Jake gets arrested, and the court decides to disjoint him for harming Hannah. Sensing an opportunity to further his anti-AI agenda, Mr. Lamp mongers fear among the people, who start hunting down robots. But right then, Blue Knight arrives on the scene, and the humans run off, claiming he attacked them first. Meanwhile, Professor O'Shea confronts Shadow, who reveals he created the Blue Knight to help Astro evolve into the King of Robots. Before leaving, Shadow also confesses the Blue Knight started fighting for robot freedom on his own. Due to the chaos caused by Blue Knight, the court orders that all robots be taken apart, and slowly, all robots are collected by the police force to be dismantled. However, just when they're about to be taken, Astro blocks their path, seeing that General Red orders to capture Astro too. Just then, the Blue Knight and his robo crew arrive and swoop in to rescue the captive robots. On the other side of town, we see Hannah Hannah finally waking up, only to find Reno there with her. The episode ends with the two locking eyes, as we hear the announcement that robots have started revolting against the humans.
Robots have rebelled against humans. For your safety, stay inside and lock your doors and windows.
This episode picks up right where we left off, with Reno getting tossed out of Hannah's room by the guards. On the other side, Mr. Lamp is scheming with General Red on what nefarious plan to cook up next against the robots. Meanwhile, Blue Knight has rallied all the robot troops and declares they're creating their own robot kingdom called Robotania. Back in Metro City, the General asks the court to dismantle all AI robots, including our hero Astro. This puts Professor O'Shea in a panic, so he rushes to tell Astro to pack his luggage before he gets caught. But it's too late. The police force and their bots have already arrived to catch Astro. The professor tries to stop them from getting too close and advises Astro to flee to Robotania. So Astro escapes, and we see the General taking control of the powerful unit to hunt down the robots. Meanwhile, Astro arrives in Antarctica as Tenma watches from afar, wondering what the little bot's next move will be. I hope chilling with the penguins is not on his bucket list now. Back in Metro City, Reno tries to ask Hannah a question, but before he could, the guards spot him. However, he then finds Hannah hiding behind his back after escaping from the hospital. Back in Antarctica, Blue Knight is straight up demolishing any human who dares approach his robot kingdom. Just as he's about to blast again, Astro interrupts, only to get shot at by the very humans he's protecting. As the futuristic tank-like machines roll towards Robotania, they're suddenly thrown apart by a giant tower emerging from the ground as the General and his crew watch in disbelief at what they're seeing. The following episode continues with where we left off last time, with Astro witnessing the rise of the mighty robot kingdom from the ground. That's one heck of a grand entrance. He asks Blue Knight to stop this robot rebellion, but instead falls into a crater only to wake up in Professor Tenma's lab. Over there, Tenma shows Astro a live video of the chaos caused by the Blue Knight, declaring that the robots will rewrite history now. The mad professor also unveils a new robot body, perfect for the king of robots. But our hero rejects it and tries to escape from there, only to get zapped by Tenma's spiderweb traps. Fortunately, Astro manages to break free, and General Red discovers all the previous robot villains, Atlas and Pluto, are part of the robot kingdom too. Well, this just got a whole lot more complicated. The shocking reveal has General Red's troops shaking in their boots. Meanwhile, Reno and Hannah are traveling all the way to Antarctica to let the General know the truth about Jake. Just as Blue Knight is about to attack another human, Astro intervenes again, but he gets swatted aside like a mosquito. During their journey, Reno's car breaks down, and just as he gets it fixed, a group of officers start chasing them down. Luckily, the robot Epsilon helps them escape. Meanwhile, the General learns his daughter Hannah has been kidnapped, making him furious. He orders the satellite cannon aimed directly at the robot kingdom. Knowing they have to stop this, Blue Knight and Astro rocket into space to stop the satellite before it can destroy Robotania. However, the satellite is protected by a force field shield, so the duo plan to shoot at it at the exact same time, altering the cannon's trajectory, which ends up frustrating the General. After successfully stopping the satellite cannon from blasting Robotania into oblivion, Blue Knight returns to his greater shadow and escorts Tenma to the robot kingdom. Meanwhile, Professor O'Shea and Astro try to talk with the still fuming General Red, who's angry over his daughter Hannah's kidnapping. On the other side, we see Tenma proposing his grand plan to become a robot so he can guide the world into a new era. But Shadow shuts him down hard, revealing he's already become Tenma 2.0, so the real Tenma is no longer needed. Tenma can't believe he got rejected by his own creation and falls to his knees in utter disbelief. That's when Reno and Hannah finally arrive, putting the brakes on General Red's rampage. After a long heart-to-heart conversation, Hannah reveals that Jake didn't actually do anything wrong, so the General, Professor O'Shea, and Astro have a little robot rights summit. However, Red still insists all robots are unsafe, but Astro chimes in, saying that he'll talk with Blue Knight to stop the rebellion. The General agrees, so Astro rushes to Robotania as the human ambassador to talk with Blue Knight. Their convo gets televised worldwide by Shadow. And yeah, of course, with no commercial breaks. As Astro pleads to Blue Knight, he blasts our hero with his powers. Just as he's about to finish Astro off, Atlas and Pluto jump in, causing two opposing sides to form within the robot ranks, with Pluto and Atlas siding with Astro. Astro keeps trying to reason with Blue, saying robots are meant to be partners with humans. Hearing Astro's speech, many robots in the kingdom start returning to their human companions, much to Blue Knight's surprise. Hannah tearfully reunites with her friend Jake, and General Red announces to release all captive robots. The episode ends with the robot kingdom transforming into a spacecraft as Blue Knight and co. bid Astro farewell. But wait, not so fast. That slimeball Mr. Lamp shows up and shoots a missile straight at the ship. Astro heroically jumps in to change the missile's trajectory, but gets blasted along with it, leaving everyone to believe that their beloved hero is no more.
No, Tobio. I have already lost you once before.
Alright, the next episode starts with where we left off, with Astro being admitted to the Academy of Science, still unresponsive after 13 failed attempts to resuscitate him. Professor O'Shea can't believe he's unable to bring back Astro's heart. Come on, Doc, where's that restart button? Just unplug him and plug him back in. Just as O'Shea is sobbing over Astro's body, who should show up but Professor Tenma, offering to lend a hand in reviving the fallen robot. Professor O'Shea accepts the offer, bringing Astro to Tenma's old house on one condition: he can't reveal Astro is there with him. Tenma gets to work, using all of his robotic wizardry to finally succeed in rebooting Astro. But this isn't the same Astro we know. He introduces himself as Tobio Tenma. When O'Shea sees this new, not Astro, he's baffled and asks Tobio to return to the academy to regain his memories. But Astro refuses, saying this is his home now. His sister, Zoran, is pissed off, so she, along with her brother's friends, desperately try to make him regain his memory. But everything ends in vain. That's when Mr. Lamp strikes again, attacking Tobio's home with a massive humanoid robot. Thankfully, Astro's buddies briefly knock out the giant robot, but Lamp is furious and targets Tobio's friends next. Just in the nick of time, Astro uses his powers to stop Lamp's assault, and after all the chaos he has caused until now, Lamp finally gets arrested. We then see Tobio discovering he's not actually human, but a robot, and the episode ends with Astro hugging Professor O'Shea as Tenma rages out, vowing to attack Metro City with his entire robot army. As Tenma, along with his robot army, arrive in Metro City, they launch an all-out attack on the Ministry of Science. But what's his main goal? Don't worry, we'll find out soon enough. The robo-dogs start attacking left and right, and start using a powerful gas damaging the systems. So Professor O'Shea quickly orders everyone to evacuate the lab. Amidst the chaos, we see Tenma entering the ministry, flooded with memories of his son Tobio.
Nora's my best friend.
Tobio, Nora is not your friend. She's just a robot.
He makes his way to Plant 7, a place which he holds a significant value for him and his son. As the scene unfolds, we learn the heartbreaking truth on how Tobio lost his life in a tragic accident after fighting with his father, leaving Tenma utterly distraught. Right then, Tenma appears on the screen and demands Astro to come alone to Plant 7, or he'll blow up the entire ministry. Professor O'Shea, concerned for Astro's safety, tries to dissuade him from going, but with the danger of the building being destroyed, Astro volunteers to face Tenma alone. While entering Plant 7, Astro is struck by a sense of familiarity, realizing he's been there before. Suddenly, a small flashback reveals Tobio as a robot, created by Tenma. Just like his human counterpart, Robot Tobio leaves the place, declaring his hatred for Tenma, shattering his father's heart. When Robot Tobio starts destroying the machines, Tenma jumps forward and puts a special chaplet on Tobio's neck, ceasing his system entirely. In the present, Tenma reveals his plan on putting on the same chaplet to put Astro into a deep sleep. He finally unveils his grand scheme to make Astro the king of all robots, and asks him to return to his side. But Astro rejects his offer, stating that his father has not liked anyone, including Tobio, Robot Tobio, and even himself.
No, Doctor! I'll never take part in your evil plan!
This shatters Tenma's heart, as he has been rejected by his own son for the third time. Consumed by despair, he decides to end it all by increasing the temperature of the furnace, causing it to blast and taking his own life. However, just as the situation seems hopeless, Astro comes forward, calling out to Tenma as father, melting his heart.
I forgive you.
Right then, Professor O'Shea barges in, and Tenma, realizing his failure as a father, entrusts Astro to O'Shea's care. The robot police arrive, saving Tenma and O'Shea from further harm. Now, the scene shifts to the future, where O'Shea delivers the message that robots are not mere tools for humans, but comrades who will help construct a new and harmonious world. And with that, we've reached the end of the Astro Boy series. Hope you enjoyed today's video, and if you did, like the video, subscribe, and let me know in the comments down below what you think the world's gonna be like in 50 years. Seriously, this show has got my mind racing about AI. Hope you all have a great day, and I will see you next time.